Alright, what's up everybody? IAmAMusicNerd here, back with another album review. Vince Staples. Vince Staples. Vince Staples, you know him, you love him. Entertainer, rapper, wise ass, hailing from Long Beach, California. And Vince Staples is one of my favorite rappers in the game right now. His deadpan wit and his vivid storytelling, really harkens back to guys like Ice Cube, who did in the 90s with that same type of aesthetic and attitude. Every project that Vince Staples has come out, I've loved. And the thing about Vince Staples is that he does different types of sounds. So I love these albums for different reasons. Summertime '06 was very shadowy and dark, and the song North North, which is probably the biggest single of that album, was catchy but very menacing. Then you had Big Fish Theory, which was influenced by Detroit techno and a European dubstep, EDM music, and Vince killed that album. It was an amazing album and totally different from what he did in Summertime. Then he came out with FM, which is like a 20-minute 2000s radio and having short interludes and songs that were like even under 2 minutes. So this time around, I didn't know what to expect because Vince does something different every single time. And you hear the teaser singles, Law of Averages. Now, I purposely try to stay away from these teaser singles. I heard a snippet of Law of Averages, and now I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait till the album comes out. And of course, the album is produced by Kenny Beats. He's worked with many rappers and pop singers, from Gucci Mane to Rico Nasty, JPEG Mafia, Dominic Fike. The list goes on and on and on. So, Vince Staples finally getting the Kenny Beats treatment. How's it going to sound? Is it going to have like a lot of quirky production? Well, no. This is completely different from what I thought Vince Staples would do. It's actually very low-key, probably the most mellow production that Vince has ever rapped under. With this production being so different from Vince Staples, the first song, Are You With That, I was kind of thrown back a little. I was like, well, is Vince trying to sing? He's actually has a pop melody, because it sounded like Gold Link a little bit, just a very like hip hop, so like indie R&B. Even though it's a different type of production, Vince's storytelling and his lyricism is as clever and depth as ever. And I think with this mellow production, I don't know what it is, but Vince has always talked about the content of living in the hood and crip life and gang life and trying to watch your back and act wild out and all that stuff. But for some reason, when I'm listening to this album, it hits more. And I think it's because of the contrast of, it's a very summery, mellow production. I think it's definitely the most California sounding of his albums. He's very influenced by that West Coast 90s era. And you definitely hear a lot of these like 90s G-Funk elements throughout this production, but a little bit modernized. Kind of reminds me of YG's Still Brazy, but this is the Crip version of that. The lyrics here and the content here, I think because you can actually hear his lyrics in the forefront, because the production is kind of like lo-fi and hazy. You really listen to what Vince is saying, and you're like, wow, like this is like haunting. I think this is the most haunting Vince has ever sounded. And listen, I get it. The theme of this album is extreme paranoia. I mean, talking about he even has a line in one of the songs that he has a gun in his swim trunks. And, it's typical like Vince, kind of being like, oh, just like, painting a picture, but because obviously you're not going to put a gun in your swim trunk, but that just goes to show you how paranoid he is. And I get it. A lot of his rap peers have been dying very young, and Vince is almost at the age of 30. Definitely leaps and bounds from where he was in like when he collaborated with Earl Sweatshirt and that Earl mixtape. Vince was definitely kind of like this wild and not free. He definitely was still cynical, but like he was wilding out, and he was doing the same like shit that Earl was doing. And it's crazy to see the growth, not only artistic growth, but like personal growth of both him and Earl. Vince being paranoid, you had Mac Miller, who was a friend of his, passed away. You had Nipsey Hussle, getting shot down, Pop Smoke, King Von, all these like rappers that we think are gonna blow up, they don't even make it to 25. Their careers are getting cut short. So I totally get it. Vince doesn't know how long he's gonna live, and especially the lifestyle that he kind of flirts with. A lot of his friends that are in that gang life are also getting cut down short. He even says, "Are you with that?" And despite the production being very smooth, R&B, soulful, the content is as haunting and scary as ever. Contrasting to FM, FM was kind of like the loud, you're going to the club and it's like, it's a big party, everybody's dancing. And Vince Staples' album sounds like the after party where you're like at a bar at 1 in the morning, you're just chilling with a small group of friends, And that's the vibe that I get from this album, production-wise. However, lyrical-wise, I think Vince is at his prime. Going to law of averages, giving shout-outs to the streets in Long Beach, but also playing upon, how these people are average, they don't really want to do much with their lives. Shouting out streets, but also avenues, averages, all that stuff. Talking about how he doesn't, and, even this song, he's like very paranoid. He doesn't trust a lot of people. He doesn't know who his friends, they don't know who his enemies are. He doesn't even trust his girlfriend. He doesn't trust the government. He doesn't trust anybody. Definitely a dope track, but really for me, Sundown Town, one of my favorite tracks. Him talking about, Long Beach, him being a beach boy, and like I said, and I love how he kind of like gives shout out to like, the Beach Boys, where, if you listen to Beach Boys, it's a very like utopian kind of like California, surfing, all that stuff, everybody is having a good time. But even Vince is like, yeah, I'm doing all this stuff, having a good time, but I'm still like trying to watch my back. I'm still like prepared to bring out a shotty or a 38 and shoot somebody. Like Vince is very, very paranoid. And I love how, Sundown, how shit happens at night. People get shot down at night. Everything is great when it's daytime, but at nighttime is a different story. So I love the allusions to that. Great track. Songs such as Taking Trips, right? And you're thinking about taking trips, and even the production is very, very psychedelic. Taking Trips is, when we talk about taking trips, you can talk about like, taking acid, taking drugs or something like that. But, Vince is, once again, just talking about like his stories about, growing up in the hood and having a very nostalgic, when you're very nostalgic about something, it's very hazy. There's like a beautiful darkness to it, Then you have a song, well, more of an interlude, The Apple on the Tree, right? And from what I got from this is Vince's mother talking about, how the apple, of course, doesn't fall far from the tree. The person that she married got involved in gang life and acting violent, and she had to cover him. And Vince is kind of like the same way, and how she doesn't want her son to fall into that same lifestyle. So I thought that was a pretty, dope interlude as well. Then you go to Take Me Home, which is one of the only features on the album. Fouché, I think, if I'm pronouncing that right. And like I said, this album has a very like hip-hop soul, very Mary J. Blige, but also like indie R&B flavor to it. Fouché does a great job on her verse. Vince Staples, I've noticed he's been collaborating a lot more with R&B singers, and I think it works here. And like I said, even though the song sounds beautiful, there's something about it that's just like, and I think that's what Vince is that picture he's trying to paint, where it's like, all right, cool, everything's good, we're having fun, but like somewhere around the corner somebody can get shot and the whole day is ruined. Vince is just talking about like how he just wants to be, just take me home, I just want to go where things are right, I don't want to be in this mess. That's kind of what I got from it. One of my favorite songs on the track, one of those songs where I'm going to be replaying on this album, Little Fade. I love the production here. A little bit more bouncier than the other songs. Vince is just like going at it again, Little Fade. I guess he's talking about, when you run up to somebody with a fade or something like that, like you're trying to act violent, trying to wild out. And by the end of the song, he's talking about free this person. I guess he's talking about his friends who are in jail. And then you have another interlude here, Lakewood Mall, which is very interesting. And from what I've gathered from it, I think this is like a Crip gang member or something like that, and just telling his life story, and because he references Blue a lot, so I'm assuming that he's talking about, you know, Crip stuff, like how he's just like defending his boy's honor, and like he'll do anything for his boys, and it doesn't matter, and so I don't particularly know why Vince put this story here, but I think in previous songs on this album, Vince was talking about like how a lot of these guys are kind of stuck in this cycle. They're stuck in this lifestyle, you know? Like Vince on the Law Averages song is saying like, yo, like I'm not trying to be somebody that's like living a life that's like, you know, poor in mentality. Like even though I grew up poor, like I'm not gonna have a poor mentality. Like I'm gonna do something with my life. I guess he's kind of using this as an example of that, how somebody can just be so wrapped up in this lifestyle that he just doesn't think anything else. I don't know, that could be the message here. But the album closes out with another one of my favorite songs, very catchy melody, just kind of like playing off of Vince's like nonchalant, deadpan attitude about this whole like his whole surroundings. Vince kind of reminds me a lot of like 21 Savage, where not relax, not in terms of like lyricism, but delivery sometimes, because 21 Savage, you know, can be very monotonous and deadpan and talk about like violence, but like he's not hype with it, you know. And Vince is kind of like the same way, you know. He has that very laid back attitude. To close it out, this album only just over 20 minutes long, and I think for me that's a good thing, because listening to an hour of Vince Staples is gonna get me real depressed. But seriously, I think this album is amazing. Definitely different from what I expected from FM. I expected them more like, you know, bouncier. But like I said, Vince does what he wants. You know, he's never gonna be, you know, #1 song in the charts. No way. I mean, I don't think he's even trying to hint at commercial success. This album probably sounds like it's most accessible a little bit. I mean, you know, I don't see people playing Big Fish Theory or FM on the radio like that. But if I were some like in a blink like heard him on the radio, I can see some of these songs being it. But just because it sounds accessible doesn't mean that Vince is selling out. No way, no way. Vince is sticking true to his core, and yeah, this album proves like why he is one of the best young rappers around. You know, he said in an interview that this is his most personal album, and you can definitely hear it. Having his mom on the album, having his fellow friend who might be a gang member on the album, no features except that R&B singer. Vince is just telling his story, 22 minutes, great lyrics, great storytelling. You know, Vince at his best, what can I say? But tell me what you think in the comment section. Did you love it? Did you hate this album? Like I said, if you like these type of videos, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Love you guys. YouTube recommends these 2 reviews to check out after this one. Till next time, peace.